Welcome to the Forged in Fire podcast. Meet your host, Nate Pharmer Eden, co-founder and CEO of Eden Capital, dedicated to achieving financial independence for his community, and Cole Farrell, founder and CEO of Vulcan Capital, a real estate expert with a passion for empowering others through education. Stay tuned for another episode right here on Forged in Fire.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Forged in Fire. I'm your co-host, Nate Pharmer Eden. Cole, come on stage, brother.
What's going on, Nate? How you doing?
Tuesday. I'm fired up, dude. I'm excited. We did it. Like, we wrapped it up. We got things done, and that added in 54 more to the portfolio. How you feel about it?
Dude, amped up. I look homeless right now. If anyone's watching this, I'm done. We wrapped, we closed. I'm done. You're done. We're stoked. But now it's time to come back to the barracks, right?
There it is. Regroup.
I love it.
Regroup. I'm in.
All right. So we have a different episode than normal, but I want to go through some housekeeping before we get you too excited. Without further ado, that's the wrong thing to say. Wrong time. We have a webinar coming up, and it's in November. Depending on when you hear this, it'll probably be shortly after. And all the details are going to be in the show notes. You can also go to forgereiacademy.com/webinar. It's going to be all about getting started in real estate, why you should be in real estate, why we're buying a 54 unit, and just overall, why real estate is the most effective way to get to financial freedom. So please check that out. We'd love to see you there. It's free. You just click the link. No big deal. All right. Anyways, also leave us a rating review. We want to help grow, educate others, and continue on this path. And of course, please subscribe so you don't miss another episode. And lastly, as always, buckle up or don't. But either way, it's going to be a hell of a ride.
I'll say buckle up. But before we dive in, Cole, I just got to say, Cole, it's so interesting and kind of refreshing. We're exhausted. We're tired. We did the things. We finished the fucking thing. The shit got done, but we're able to celebrate that. But now we're back in the lab. We're still working. We're still getting things we're moving the needle. And I want to say, I appreciate you, bro. This is not many people come on this wild ass ride. So thank you.
Oh, likewise. And it's funny because our last episode we just recorded, and I'm sure everyone will hear it, is the guy said, he's like, I'm the CEO, I'm the chief everything officer. And I was like, man, we are all really CEOs of this. We're all chief everything officers. We're all wearing 1,000 hats and doing whatever needs to be done to get it done. And of course, we have our own marching orders and we have our systems, but it's just funny. And thinking about that, and I agree with you. It's a pleasure to be here. Stoked we got through this one and excited to talk about this stuff. We're going to be talking about starting something new, whether that's a new business, whether that's a new part of the business, a new podcast, whatever the fuck you want it to be, it's starting something new because there's a couple steps that have to happen for you to do something successfully. And whether you call that a launch or a whatever, it's just starting. So where do you want to jump in, Nate?
Yeah, no, I want to echo your sentiments. And yes, thinking of starting something new, doesn't matter what direction it is, but you have to have a goal in mind. With no target, you'll hit it every fucking time. But as long as you got your goal, as again, whether it be a podcast, you want to hit 100 episodes, rather it's want to close 100 doors, rather it is, sure, come up with some kind of goal in mind that you can actually look at. And I just fully off script with this, right? Once you figure out whatever that goal is, when you're starting something new, write that shit down. Document it, please, because things will come up. We'll get into that later, but look at it kind of like affirmations. But yes, so start with a goal would be step number one is what I would come up with.
I love that. And just to expand on that, with your goal and when you're setting that, I completely agree. You need to have that in mind. And with it in mind, you need to have the reason of the goal, right? I know that sounds stupid. Obviously, you have the goal for some kind of reason, but you need to have that nailed down packed. So for instance, if we start the podcast, we say we're going to hit 100 episodes, right? why are we doing the podcast? Why 100? Like, you need to understand what the thing is under the thing. So I think that's important because that's kind of what you're tracking as well. You're not only tracking, and again, like you said, we'll get into this, the surface level goal, but you're tracking the underlying goal to see if it's all worth it. And we can go deeper into that. But 1,000% goals, milestones.
And I have to, again, if I apologize, but I want to say, ask yourself with this one as well, the why. Like you said, the question under the question, what's the why that you're deciding that you would like to make this happen to set these goals, right? And then from there, figure out how you can solve for that why. And do them in small incremental movements and steps, also known as milestones. Figure out how you can kind of break things down to be able to make sure that that goal, rather it's 100, rather it's 1,000, rather it doesn't matter to me, but where is that quarter base going to be? Or where is that 10th of a space going to be? Or where is that 1 foot in front of the other that's going to be able to help you to be able to say, yes, I'm going in the right direction.
Right, exactly. And again, it's kind of blends into tracking, which we'll get into a little bit, but like, it's just that it's setting your mins. And from episode X, whatever it was that we did a little bit ago, you set your mins and your things. And it's just, okay, you start that big goal, like we mentioned, and then you boil it down, boil it down, boil it down, just like you said, all the way to that 1 step in front of the other. And then you just watch it. And it's funny, I love that you brought up the why. We can have a whole episode on whys. I'm not going to go into it. I've recently been altering my whys on trying to make them more impactful to others. I think my initial whys when I started this were me. I want to be rich. I want to do this. I want freedom. And that's needed, right? You can't help anyone else until you help yourself. Fucking fact. I think that's so important. But it's funny. I'm not going to share my whys now. I'm just going to tease you with them. But they're pretty controversial, but I think they have to be effective. So another date, we'll go into them, but I think that's super important.
Dude, that's like dangling like $1 or something in front of somebody's face. Like, dude, just hand it to me. Like, I just let me know what the why is. But okay, so I can't wait for that episode because I need to know these whys. Because mine have also recently switched as well. Not drastically. Like, I don't think it was like a paradigm shift, but fine. Another episode, another time. Let's talk more about tracking. Let's talk more about KPIs in starting something. So you have a goal in mind. You have your reason why now as to what it is that, or the why behind this is why the goal is here. And so now what you could call action items, or you could call action steps. Those are things that you're going to be tangibly able to say, this is going to be a marker for me, very similar like what we're talking about milestones, but it's something now where I'm going to have to document. I am going to have to consistently check in on to make sure, again, using the term moving the needle, that we are now actually making progress day by day, week by week, month by month. Having that kind of timeline as well is going to be very crucial. But please, let me know your thoughts on this.
No, I totally agree. I think tracking, like, let's just boil this down and give you a concrete thing. You need to be doing it a minimum of once a month. If you don't know where your business stands every month, you should just pack up shop and quit. You're wasting your time.
Harsh.
It's a fact. All right. I don't want this to be all cushy. If you don't know where your numbers are, you're failing. And if you're not failing, you're goddamn lucky. And I just truly believe that you need to be tracking everything to be effective, because if you're not, you're at the wind, or whatever that saying is, to like the market. Like, anything that could happen could either help you or destroy you, but you don't know if it is, and you don't know why. So you can't stop it. If you track it and you know what's going on, you know why, you can solve the underlying problem before it's a problem. I just think it's so important. So I agree with you. Talk to me about KPIs though. So what are things that somebody should track in general?
Yeah. So you're starting a thing, and let's just say that this thing just so happens to maybe be business related. KPIs for that could be as easy as money coming in, money going out. P&Ls, profit and loss statements, for those that don't know what that stands for. Luckily, you let me say it, because if Cole would have said it again, he probably would have been like, why are you in business? This is why I got this part. So P&Ls, profit and loss statements. Then also, if your business has anything to do with helping or giving back or involving other people, how many people are you influencing? How many people are you touching? How many touch points have been made? How many lead magnets are actually generated? Things like this. And it's not necessarily common sense, but at the end of the day, if my goal is to influence or change or touch or sell, or doesn't matter, 100 by X amount of date, and I'm now 6 weeks in and I don't know if I'm on 0 or 1,000, how the fuck am I going to know that I hit my goal or that I need to move it? Right? So I'm sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. Go ahead, brother.
No, I love it. I just want to echo that. Like, number one is, are you making money or losing money? Again, that only applies if you're in business and you're selling a product, right? If you're not, it's different. But if anybody is starting a thing that involves money, you are number one thing you're tracking is, are you making money or losing money? And to understand the plan. And then just like you said, the other things that you could be looking at are super important as well. Just kind of thinking about it, I guess some other things is just, if you're not in business, then it's, again, what's the goal and what needs to happen? So I mean, echo what you said. Is it people? Is it things? Whatever it is, just make sure you know how to quantify it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because if you can't quantify it, you can't track it. So that's huge.
I love it. And also, and this is going to flow into a few more things, but I would also highly recommend, if you're tracking KPIs, the amount of energy and the amount of time things are spent on each one of these action items is pivotal. Because here's an example. Let's say you spent an entire week developing the best lead magnet for whatever it is. And you're starting a thing and you're doing the things to make the thing happen. A week in, you've spent all of your resources to make it happen. And then now it's taken, let's just say, 40 hours in that week to make it, and it doesn't do a single thing. Nothing happens. You thought you had the killer lead magnet. It's going to bring in everybody. By tomorrow, you're going to be done with everything because you can retire. But nothing happens. Nothing moves. At that moment, then what? Now you've also need to, track the amount of time it took for each thing, so then you can make sure that you can pivot. We'll talk about that a little bit later, or adjust as need be to make sure that you're actually dumping the proper resource, the proper time, the proper strategies into the things that are going to do the thing.
I love that. I love it. And then one last thing just to tack on there is, the amount of time you watch it affects your tracking. Meaning, like, you're not going to be able to tell a lot of information from a week's worth of data. You might, but it's unlikely. A month, you're going to have a couple insights, but still not enough. But when you start looking at like a year's worth of data of things that you've tracked, that's when it's really, really, really helpful, because you can start seeing all the trends. And you can see, okay, when do we do this? What works? Is it because of the time of the year? Is it because we did this thing? So you just need to start tracking. And even if you're like, well, I don't need to do this now, you do, because you need to see the trends and you need to have the data. But if you don't track, you're losing time. So that's huge. And I think before we keep going, do you want to give them like a real life example? Like, Nate and Cole, we make golf balls and we're going to start selling them, right? So we make golf balls because we want to change the world, and that's our why in some unclear way.
Golf balls. Let's do it.
So we're making golf balls, right? We have a goal, and maybe we want to sell 1 million golf balls this year because that's going to allow us to ban illegal dumping or something. I don't know. That's our why. We have our why. We have our goal. Cool. So then we're going to set up, things. Okay, if we want to sell 1 million golf balls this year, what do we need to put in place this year to do that? What do we need to put in place this quarter to do that, or every quarter? And then how do we break that down monthly, weekly, and today?
So good.
Yeah, then we have our stuff, right? Our goals. And then we're going to start tracking it. So, okay, how many golf balls did we sell this week? How much money did we market to spend, sell those golf balls? Are we making or losing money? What's working? Is it Facebook and Instagram ads? Is it this other thing? We're just tracking all these different metrics and trying to see what's working.
And before we even get that far, where the fuck are we going to come up with 1 million golf balls? How do we even get that far? So let's take it a step back. So do we invest in 100, and then from those 100, if we sell 100, it'll bring back enough for a return for 300, and then we're able to keep moving this way? Once you start dissecting, you start looking, again, I want to take it all the way back. Well, I apologize for your analogy is killer, brother, but I want to take it all the way back to the very beginning. We were talking about documentation and when you're planning your strategy and you're writing things down when you're setting your goals and writing down your whys. Because that, when you're able to look back at it, again, day by day, week by week, month by month, you get it. You're able to then go back to the focal point. Cole started this whole thing and said, we're bringing it back to the barracks. We're able to bring it back to the barracks, as I was saying, to say, yeah, we can regroup, we can refocus, we can realign with the KPIs, we can make sure, Nate's favorite thing, moving that needle. So this episode's so good. Like, this is so random, but I like it.
I got to slow down my talking, so I'm getting excited. I'm just like throwing words out there, so we'll slow it down. So let's say, okay, you got your goals in mind. You understand what you're going to track if you're not already starting that. Another thing I think is huge is timeline. So it's, when are you starting officially? So let's say we have our golf ball business. We're getting it up and running behind the scenes. Nobody knows we're selling them yet. We didn't start marketing. So what's the date that we are going to go live? When are we going to launch? When is sales going to start? We need a hard date, and you have to stick behind it. You cannot just say, okay, I'm going to do, October 1st, and then October 1st is a week away, and you're like, you know what? I don't have enough time. Let me push it. And then you push it a week, and then another week, and then a month goes by, and you never went live, and now you're losing money, or you're not getting further. So you need to have a start time.
That is so good. We're literally just talking about that, about this podcast. We always like to deal with full transparency. What's our launch date? What are we thinking about making sure that we can have a concrete time and give ourselves ample time to be able to market and promote, so that way we can get all this content out for the viewers. And we wouldn't be able to move forward or do a proper launch if we never set a fucking date. So I agree. I echo you, and you and I are in the middle of it right now.
Yep. And the other thing too is minimum runtime. And you might be saying, like, what does that mean? So it's, how long do you need to run something and test it before you can declare it, I shouldn't say a failure, but a failure, right? And that's up to interpretation. Is it a failure or is it a pivot? And we'll get into that in a little bit. But we talk about this in hiring and firing a lot. And, we talk about hiring virtual assistants. We talk about hiring team members. We're really passionate about this and building the team. And so an example is, when you're bringing on a new team member, you really need a minimum of 90 days, especially for a new position. So yes, you might be able to get some feelings before that, but it takes time to bring somebody on, to onboard them, to acclimate them to the culture. These things take time. So you need to give it a minimum run period before you can pivot or change, just in general with anything. So if we're starting our golf ball business again, if we started for a week and we got no sales, we can't be like, it's terrible, it's not working, shut her down. No, it takes time. So maybe we'll say, what, a year? We need X amount in a year, or we just need to see it's working within a year, or whatever.
I agree 1,000%. And all these things tie together, bro. It's crazy. So let's just say it was a year that we're doing the golf balls, and we wanted to sell those million within that year. So aside from the KPIs, aside from making sure that we wrote it down, what's going to be our determining factor is going to be those milestones that we just touched base on, right? So minimum lead time, just like you're talking about with how we build our team, the hiring, the 90 days. So let's just say we're doing it in a year. What would be the most logical thing for us to start tracking by? It will be months and then quarters. Every quarter, we're going to check in and see what's happening. And do we need to adjust? Do we need to change? And if you don't mind me kind of talking a little bit about pivoting, it will be one of those situations where, hey, we've given it 90 days and we haven't really sold any golf balls. So I'm coming to you, Cole, and I'm like, hey, I noticed that we have all the golf balls. They're right here. And I think we should have at this point sold, let's just say 250 for breaking them down, 250,000, but we haven't yet. But the feedback that I'm getting is that there is no feedback. People don't seem to know that we're selling golf balls. What would we do at that moment? So we spent 90 days, we spent all our resources in trying to come up with a plan. We haven't done a single thing for marketing. So it's not that we're going to change the end result. It's that we're going to pivot the amount of things that we're going to be doing because there's no outreach, which means that there's no, you know what? You guys get it? Go ahead, Cole.
No, I love that. I think you should keep going down that route. So a quarter goes by, we got no sales, and we're okay. Why don't we have sales? Okay, like you said, nobody knows we're selling. Cool. Let's start marketing on Facebook and Instagram. We start running Facebook and Instagram ads. We're putting X amount behind it. and we make a couple sales. Oh, cool, it's working. Great. Another quarter goes by. We sold 1,000 golf balls and we spent $10,000 doing so. And now we're at a loss. All right, well, marketing's working, but it's not efficient. Or maybe our marketing messaging isn't efficient. Maybe this isn't working, whatever. You keep going down that road, but then you, again, pivot. Okay, maybe we need to switch ads. Maybe it's the golf ball itself. We need to do this. It's just determining what the problem is. And again, we can go into a whole episode on this, but one of the most valuable skills you can have as an entrepreneur, whether it's money or charity or whatever the hell you're doing, is figuring out what the problem is and knowing what to do with that problem.
So good. And I get to break it down a little bit further, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs that go through this when they're doing the thing. You have to have the time and the patience to be able to look into things, because it's your thing. Nobody else's. You and your team. So to kind of expand upon what Cole was just saying about the marketing, so you market on Facebook, you market on YouTube, and let's say you put 500 on each side, 500 on Facebook, 500 on YouTube, you throw those ads out there. But all of the revenue that came back was from Facebook. So an easy pivot solution would be pull the YouTube, let's dump the 1,000 in, and we'll be able to 10x the return. But you guys get the point. Not math is math, but instead of now trying to split or now trying to change, we see where the results are coming. So let's go ahead and make sure that we're going down that path, and then see how we can double, triple, 10x that to make sure that we can then generate better returns to come back. So this topic to me is, I'm having such a good time. I'm sorry.
I love it. All right, let me ask you a question, right? We're golfing. We're selling hundreds of thousands of golf balls. We are doing exactly what we said we were going to do, and it's working. And all factors are a go. Our metrics say keep selling, keep doing. So we keep growing, right? And then let's say some weird disease comes across the world, and the world shuts down for a year, and people stop golfing for a year. So our golf ball sales go to zero. Then what?
Oh, Black Swan event comes in. So just make sure that I'm recapping this right. We're a year in, sales are good. Black Swan event comes in, nobody's golfing, but we now have the revenue that we had. And do we still have the golf balls?
We have some golf balls, but we don't know what to do. Our sales just dried up. We're confused.
Ooh-wee. So it sounds like we're gonna have to pivot.
Yes.
So we're gonna have to try to shift tactics, because no one can dictate, and we talk about this with the real estate market all the time. We have no idea what the heck's coming. We can't predict the timing. No one can time the market right. We can look at the data, we can look at all the analytics, but no one actually knows what's going to happen. So we think proactively to try to figure out what's going to be the next best course of action. Now, in that case and in that scenario, if we've got a few golf balls left, but we've made our money and everybody was happy with it, and we're able to still pivot, and the goal was to be able to generate a profitable business, was what we had written down. And we wrote down our why is because we wanted to change and impact lives. So our pivot would be, what could we then do business related that is going to still impact and affect lives to the matter that we started and set out to? And then how can we then develop something that's going to be profitable with the earnings that we brought back in? Again, we know this because we have our P&Ls, or our profit and loss statements. So making that pivot, making that shift. And if everybody's at home and no one is out golfing, what are they doing virtually? So can we pivot? Can we redesign? Can we structure some type of golf game? Because clearly everybody was enjoying golfing. So how can we then just maneuver to make sure that we're still catering to our audience? And this is far out there, but if we have our audience and we have those, because again, we had our CRMs, we talked about those when we were developing our KPIs. We have our contact base because we developed an email list. We reach out and try to figure out what kind of, talk it fast. You follow along, listen up to what I'm saying. Cole, go ahead, brother. Man, we breaking it all the way down.
No. You're right on the verge there. You got your CRM. Everyone's following.
Yep, we got the CRM. We got the KPIs. We understand that our target audience base that was out there enjoyed working with us. I'm just saying we've been in there for a year. Business was growing up. So naturally, deductive reasoning allows me to believe that the word has gotten out through marketing. And folks, for some reason, like Cole, like Nate, like our business, like our motto. So what will we then do by pivoting? We would reach out to our target audience again to say, hey, unfortunately, due to the Black Swan event, these are the direction that we're thinking about going. How do you feel about that? I enjoy that kind of feedback because it helps me to understand the direction that I want to go ahead of time before I drop all my resources that I just worked a whole year to be able to generate in a direction that might not be what my target wants me to stay at, right? So getting feedback, engaging with folks that have helped you come from where you started when you're doing the thing. And for us, it was golf balls to now saying, what can we do to be able to help you in this time of whatever the Black Swan event was? That would be my answer. But Cole, let me know yours.
I love that. I'm not even going to give you an answer because that's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. And the whole point to my question was just, you can't know what you're going to do. You're just going to sit down and have a conversation with yourself or with others, and you're going to figure it out. So part of this whole conversation of getting off the porch, a lot of people I think are going to be, well, what if it doesn't work? What if I'm going to pivot? What if this? What if that? Like, you don't know. You're never going to know. And even if you do know, something is going to happen and you're going to be like, oh shit. And you're just going to have to deal with it. So just like Nate and I just chatted about, okay, this is what could happen. We would never have foreseen that. We deal with it, we pivot, and we're good. So I just think the point is just like, as life happens, you're going to have to make some changes and you just got to be ready for that. You can't fear it. You just got to welcome it. So go down your plan, track, and do everything as planned. And if something happens, if and when, you deal with it and you just keep on moving and pivot.
So you mean that because there's the fear of the unknown, I should not take the first step?
Yeah, you should just not even get in business. You should just keep doing what you're doing and never start. No, of course. Yes, I agree. So the fear cannot hold you back, right?
You're the thing.
You just got to do it. It's like outweighing, the risk and the reward. So would I advise someone to go dump $1 million in cash into something if that's all they have liquid and they're putting their whole life on the line? It's probably not a good strategy. Maybe if you have nothing to lose, but it's probably not a good strategy. So there's like I think a balance between like taking risk and going for it and going too far. But ultimately at the end of the day, you just got to start in some capacity. And like we said in the beginning, start with a small step, do the one thing every day, and then you'll hit your goal. It's just a time game.
Let me ask you this one, because this is what I believe that you are so well known for, because you taught me, and anybody that's been following or hanging with us knows exactly what I'm going to say on this one. So let's use that exact same fictitious scenario about us and the golf balls, Cole. And the Black Swan event happens. We pivot. All that's great. Everything happens for a reason. It's good. Fine. Black Swan event goes away. But we had our business plan. We had our model. And everything was working. How would we then be able to replicate that?
How would we replicate and grow?
Yep, exactly. How would we replicate and grow? What would we have been able to do throughout the entire duration of what we were doing to make sure that we had everything written down?
So from the get-go, you should have your plan and you should be writing everything down. And when you're writing your processes down, that's called your SOP, your standard operating procedure, right? And that is the Bible to your business. That is how everything works. And again, we talk about this all the time, and it is so important. Nate and I are in business. Let's just say just me. I'm just in business, just myself selling these golf balls before Nate ever got involved. And I walk into the middle of traffic to cross the street. I get hit by a bus and I die. Well, business is over because nobody knows how to pick up what I'm doing. Nobody knows what I did. Nobody knows why I did it. There's no recipe. You're just going to try to figure it out. And that's a disaster. However, if I was training Nate and we're selling golf balls and I got hit by a bus and Nate needs to take over, but he has a master document of how we did everything, why we did everything. Well, the company lives on, legacy lives on, and you keep building. So obviously we don't want that to happen. However, the point is not in a disastrous scenario like that, but more so just how do you train somebody? How do you evaluate what's like on deck almost and remember all these things? You can't. So you got to write everything down and create it into a how-to for your whole business.
You said the things. You said the things exactly 1,000%. I agree with you. I'm in. I appreciate that. So really quick, let's jump into, two things real fast. One, SOPs to understand for the standard operating procedure. Number two, coaches, guidance, finding someone that has done it. There's no sense, and this plays into exactly what Cole was saying. If we had the business, or we've come up with an idea for the business, and the business goes away and we need to come back to it, don't reinvent the wheel. That's exactly what it comes down to for mentorship, guidance, coaches, people that have done the thing. If there's any relation or any correlation to the thing that you want to do, talk to the experts about it. Reach out to them. Say, what have you gone through? Because they can tell you one of three things. Either it's something that they've done in the past, and they can help you, guide you, steer you to be able to say, hey, don't do this one. They can tell you what it is that you're going through right now and say, hey, yeah, I've been in this spot. Don't get stuck in this rut. Pivot. Or number three, they can tell you what's coming because they see it, because they've went through it. And they will help you navigate to make sure that you're not stuck in that rat race or that maze. So again, I apologize.
No, it's so good. I mean, that is like if I was going to go sell these golf balls, the first thing or one of the first things I would do is go find somebody else that does this successfully and ask them a billion questions. And hopefully they'll take that meeting and hopefully you can build a relationship and work together in some capacity. But like you said, there's no sense just starting from zero. Somebody else has done it. And why not get a jump start and kind of get that expert guidance, because it'll save you so much time and money. So regardless of what industry you're in, you should just be pushing to find somebody that's done it. And the key word there is done it. Because if somebody hasn't done it, they're trying to guide you. There's some issues.
Dude, I love it. 1,000%, man. With that, I just want to say this has been a random episode, but it's been an amazing episode. And I'm hoping folks are able to kind of tune in to the next one on Forge and Fire. We appreciate you all so greatly. It was very random how it came about, but this is awesome. So until next time, you guys, take care, get home safe. We'll talk to y'all soon.
See you soon.
Peace.